What's going on, beautiful people, and welcome back to another MD Fish Tanks build video. Today we're going to be doing like an ecosystem tank, so no tech at all. Well, a light. We've got a light, but you can allow me a light, right? That was hard to say. But yeah, there'll be absolutely no tech inside the tank at all. The plants will be doing all of the work for us. Now, usually I just do a flat base with this and really heavily plant it, but today I want to try it like a nature aquarium style and still hopefully get success with it. So yeah, usually I set something up a little bit like this, which is kind of chaotic, but beautiful in its own way, I guess. But we have a load of soil at the bottom there, a ton of plants, and that's what sort of fixes everything. Any issues, waste is used by the plants, it goes into the substrate, and then the roots just like feed off of it. So it's like one big, beautiful circle of life. And this right here is the tank that we are going to be using. It is 60 centimeters by actually, I'm not sure. I can't find my tape measure, so I'm going to use this massive ruler. 38 centimeters high and 40 in depth, so 40, 40, 60 basically. And don't worry, I'll put all that information up on the screen here. We are also using the Superfish light because it's a very, very affordable, budget friendly for anyone, but it also packs out some really good levels, which means we're going to get great plant growth, and that is exactly what you need in an ecosystem aquarium. So I want to go for a far more sort of wild looking style for this one. I think it will just suit the fish that we're going to put in here, which is the Endlers. I've got a bunch of Endlers at the moment. They keep breeding in the little tank they're in, and some of the babies are getting picked off, I think. So I think I want to move them out and let the babies actually grow up. They'll eventually be put into this tank as well, but it's a good sort of starting place to eventually move on to a bigger one. Anyway, that's not important right now. First thing, I need to set out a little substrate system. We need nutrients. Now, I'm sure many of you that watch my channel are sick of seeing this right now. I've already done it in this aquarium here, but you need to remember that lots of people watching this video would have seen my videos for the first time, and they need to know how to do this properly. So we're going to do that now, substrate system. So into the shop I go because I'm looking for this stuff. The old Nutri-Base, brilliant stuff. Okay, so I won't be needing the whole lot of this bag. I would use this size bag for like a 4-foot tank, so probably need half of it, if that actually. I'm gonna go with like about 4 of these scoops, I reckon. So next up on top of this layer is a decent sprinkling of aquatic compost. Now we don't need a huge amount of this, just a sort of light sprinkling covering everywhere. There's little bits of gravel and that in there, but that's fine, that won't hurt at all. You will occasionally get the odd clump of soil, but that's okay, just use your hands to break that up. One more scoop. Like I say, just use your fingers, break up any clumps. You can kind of mix all this stuff together if you want. I don't see the point though, because we're not going to see it. I'm going to at least like flatten it out though, so that it doesn't sort of come through the top layer that we put on top of this. Now the next layer is not cosmetic at all. It's basically a bunch of old gravel, sand, aqua soil, stuff from previous setups that I just save for times like now when I want to just cap the top of that off with about 1 inch or so. It doesn't look pretty, but it does the job well. Right, so what I've got here, in this bucket, some old aqua soil and a bit of sand. It's all dried out, and a sticker apparently as well. This one is just sand, wet sand, aqua soil, gravel mix. We'll put that all in together. Probably need all of this. If you haven't got this mix, don't worry about it. You can just use sand or whatever you have got, but I have got it, so I might as well use it. Now, of course, that is not very aesthetically pleasing at all. Well, it's not too bad, I guess, but it's not really the look I want to go for. So I'm going to cap over the top of it now with the actual pretty, the pretty sand and gravel. And I've actually got it over here, and it's one I've used before just to bulk up some size, but I quite like the look of it, all the different grain sizes and that. I'm going to give it a go. And I just want to pull the front part, just make a little bit of a gap so that the new clean gravel can sit in that area. It just looks a little bit better then. Yeah, I really like the natural look of that, but there's a few too many of the bigger stones, so I'm just going to remove them by hand because there's not that many. I can probably put them back in, but I can arrange them in a way that's around the hardscape and it'll just look a bit better. Okay, there we go. They're obviously not staying like that. We can now get started with some hardscape, the funnest part of all. That's the substrate system done. It looks really shallow at the front. It's actually a lot deeper, at least double that at the back, but everything's shallow at the front, so we're absolutely fine. It's all capped. That soil can't come into the water column, and to be honest, because it's aquatic compost, even if a little bit does get into the water column, absolutely fine. It won't hurt. It might make the surface look a bit molmy, but you know, not a problem. All natural looking. Okay, as much as I like that instantly, I just feel like it's a bit oversized for this size tank, so I want to try and take that out. Pick something similar but smaller in scale, because it's just, I like bigness, but it's very big. Saying that, I might just revert back to this in a minute, you know me. Right, I'm quite liking that so far. It's just a bit weird, a bit random. Something feels a little bit off. And I think I need this piece higher, like right up to the top of the water line. And I think that will sort of balance it out. Let's give it a go. Yeah, I think that'll work. I just need to find a way to secure it. Yeah, there we go. I think that fits much, much better. Now, this big chunk missing, you can see just like that there, looks a bit weird. We'll put something there, like some Anubias or something like that, so that won't be an issue, but I think it's a lot more balanced now. It's got like a U shape to it, and then those big rocks in the foreground, actually giving you like a cool sort of sense of perspective, rather than having little ones. I just went, screw it, put the big ones in the front. I think it works quite well. Like, my style of scaping isn't very much like taking days and days. It's just let it fall into place. If it feels right, it feels right. If it doesn't, change it. And I feel good with that. This one is quite straight. I might tilt it slightly one way or the other. But saying that, sometimes the straight pieces of wood can work really well. It just depends on the rest of the scape, to be honest. I think that's going to work better for this one though. Just a little bit, look. So they're all actually following the same sort of line there. They're not even going to a point of, you know, a perspective point. They're just go in parallel, but I like it. And if you like it, stick with it. I quite like how it's just balanced there. It looks like it should be falling over. And then this one in the back is going to give us some good height to attach some plants to as well. Now, I have still got all of these little pebbles, haven't I? So I'm going to bring them forward and add them around these rocks and pieces of wood just for details. And it should give it a real sense of realism then. Sweet, all that's left to do now is lock it down with paper towel and super glue. So everything is now like firmly locked in place in the aquarium, and now we can begin to add the plants. I've shuffled around a little bit with the foreground because some of the rocks that were down here were a little bit big and it was just ruining the sense of scale. It's more detail-y now. It's quite a dark substrate compared to what I usually use, but that is actually very realistic of our rivers in the UK. It's not going to be by the time I've shoved all these plants in it, but yeah, something different, you know. Now, in terms of planting, I want to go very Java fern heavy in this, and I want to have it sort of sat in this pocket here and on that side, but in like a very upward sprouty motion, and with it all sort of condensed and compact together, so it's not sort of wavy, but like get that sort of age grown in look straight away. And to do that, I'll need quite a few plants, to be honest, but it's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be a good look. Background will be stems, obviously, and then I'm gonna just do little sprouts of green just sort of popping out of everywhere, and your usual Anubias and stuff like that to cover up all the gaps. Maybe, do I want some moss in here? It might be a good idea to do some moss for a change. I haven't done any in Escape for ages because I'm lazy and don't want to trim it all. Anyway, we can decide on that later, but first of all, I'm gonna collect up all the plants I want to use. I'll put them on the bench so we can just have a good look at them. So down here in this tank is where I collected all of my epiphyte plants from the previous setups in the old studio. So they're all sat here ready and waiting to go. I've also got a nice crypt in the back there that I'll use at some point. I'm not sure on this scape, but yeah, we've got Java ferns, you can see there. We've got Buses, we've got Anubiases, various varieties. So there's loads to choose from. Oh, there's a Copperfolia there as well. Nice. We have got some great plants here. I've got loads of small sort of scaled Anubias, and I've got loads of different Buses as well. We've got some Java ferns. I've got even more, but I'm just going to start with that and go from there. So that's all my Java ferns placed in. Some are placed in, some were glued on, like that one's glued and that one at the back's glued, but the rest are just pushed into cracks. And now we can go in the foreground a little bit with the Anubias and the Bucephalandra, just adding more and more detail as we go. Right, that's enough of those specific epiphyte plants. I've also got some others to go more higher up, which is going to be the Hygrophila pinnatifida. But it looks like a lot, right? But you do get such a better look to start your tank if you've got more plants. Now, a lot of these were bought a lot smaller and I've just had them over like a year or so. And as a result, they've all like doubled or tripled in size. So now, like the initial investment, it just carries on. They all grow and then you can just keep reusing them and they get bigger and bigger. This is why it's a really good idea to spend some money on some good plants, and then you've actually got them for a long time for multiple scapes as well. So here we've got Hygrophila pinnatifida, and it looks quite sort of jungly at the moment. It doesn't look quite like this once it's been submerged in water for a while and starts growing. It's got some really good pinky and reddish hues, but we can put it in like this. And again, it doesn't have to be planted. It can be planted in substrate, but it can also be attached to decor. So that's what we're gonna do. Oh yes, we are looking really sort of jungly, and I actually love how it looks. Look at that, like it's thicker wood, less sort of branchy. That one's quite branchy. We've got a darker substrate, lighter substrate. We've got red plants, we've got green plants. I'm just loving the contrast. I just think that's gonna be awesome next to each other in the long term as well. But now I wanna plant the foreground plants in. I've got them over here. So in this tank, I've got a load of crypts. You can see the shiny leaves there, those are crypts. So they're gonna be nice in the foreground. And then at the back, at the top here, I've got some Pogostemon halfari, and I've got some Liliotsis, and I've got some Glossostigma back there as well. So I'll put all of those in, I think, and then we can get started on the stems, but afterwards, I'm gonna fill it up after and use those stems. Okay, so that's enough of those kind of plants now. We're on to stem plants, which are mainly what you really plant in the background, and they'll grow up tall. But first of all, we need to fill the whole tank up. We're going to do it really carefully and slowly so it stays nice and clear. We don't disturb all of this sand and soil and everything. If we get the layer underneath with the high nutrients into the water column, we're going to end up with a load of problems down the road. So just want to do it really slowly and carefully. I'm going to put a little bit of filter floss in this area just so it just disperses the water flow, and then it should stay clear. We're filled up, we're looking fresh. Now you can see the background area easily, and we can plant into it, meaning that I can see where the plants are actually sitting. If I had planted them before, they'd be flopped over. I wouldn't be able to tell their height or anything like that. But now I can just put them in, and I'm going to use the method that I usually use, which is the same one that I did on here. Is you collect some stems together, put them in a little sort of plant weight or ceramic ring, and just plonk them in the back. Push them into the substrate a little bit, and then their roots will just find their way down in no time, and they'll just be like flying, really. The reason why I like to do that is just so they've got some good height to begin with. I mean, I'm making a video at the end of the day. We want it to look great straight away, but you guys don't have to do this. You can just plant it straight in and just, you know, give it a week or two, and they'll be like growing really tall and great anyway. Right, it's now the next day and the tank is looking perfect, it's clear and it is ready for fish. But I'm noticing such a good contrast at the moment between these two tanks. I mean, yeah, just look at that. I mean, I know the different height will annoy some people. It doesn't, but things like that really don't bother me at all. But I know some of you get triggered by like things like that. But anyway, how good does it look? So we've got all greens, we've got pretty much all reds. We've got a lighter substrate, we've got a more dark substrate, we've got rounded pebbles on that side, we've got more harsh sort of angular rocks on this side. The wood is like very chunky and solid, whereas it's very branchy over here. This has got red root floaters, so maybe we need to add some green floaters to this side. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? So I'm adding salvinia to the mix here. There's a little bit of duckweed in there as well, but that's actually really beneficial in a no filter tank. If I really want to get rid of it, I'll stick some of my goldfish in here. Mind you saying that, they'll eat everything else as well. There we go, looking brilliant, and now we can add our fish. So yeah, the whole point of me making this tank, hopefully you still remember, was for the endlers that I've got in here. So there's tons of babies in there, but there's already pregnant females. Well, there's always going to be in there. Endlers, guppies, they just constantly breed. So they will give birth in this new tank, and they'll probably do it quite like quickly. Normally when you move fish that are like pregnant, they tend, if they're ready I suppose, they tend to just like give birth straight away as like a way of, like a defense mechanism of increasing the chances of survival, I guess. But yeah, we've actually got some really, really nice males in here. All the females are pretty generic, and there's one fully generic one. There we go. Look at that, that's my favourite one. He is an absolute stunner, so he could look even good in a new tank. I've got to try and catch him now, to be fair. If I need to, I can just take all of this stuff out. Right, I think I've got them all. I also added a few of the sort of slightly bigger babies. They're at a size now where I think they'd be absolutely fine. They won't be predated on. Endlers and guppies, they're pretty good anyway, but look, there's so many in there now. They're dotted around the whole tank swimming about. I've completely messed it up. There's just like gunk and that everywhere. I think at some point I'm gonna take all of this out and change the water and then put it all back in again, because there's so much moss in here that it's harbouring all the sort of mulm, which to be honest, doesn't seem to be too bad. Uh-oh, lights have gone out. It's actually time to go home. But I'm not gonna go home because I've actually got all of the lights hooked up to my phone, so we can turn them all back on again. Except for the Chihiros, because it's obviously on its own timer, on the built-in timer. The rest of them are all on like smart plugs now. Anyway, let's put these guys in their new home. Hopefully we get even more babies then. I can power feed this tank as well. That's why another reason I want to take out everything from it. I'm going to power feed it, get those growing up nice and quick. I can see a female, a large female. Where on earth were you hiding? I got her, I got her. I mean, I'm saying where are you hiding? It's pretty obvious where you're hiding. And as always, guys, remember I heat the room, not the tanks, so all the temperatures match. Oh, they look great. I just love this. I love what I'm doing here. And what I mean by that is I love doing just a small stocking level in a tank. I mean, I know I've done 60 better fish in one, but that was for a different reason. My favorite thing to do is no tech, so like the whole scape we've got here, and then sort of understock it. Like these fish here, they are barely going to create any bioload in the system, but nothing's technically cycled in this tank. I mean, the substrate's new, the plants aren't new. A lot of those have actually been in other setups, but some of them are new. Basically, it's not established enough to be able to deal with the waste that these guys are generating. That means that for the first few days, probably a week to be honest, I'm going to be doing 50% water changes and checking the water with the API test kit each day. This will then tell me if I need to do any water changes. To be honest, I'll probably just do them anyway, but it's always good to know where you're at cycle-wise. And now that the fish are in, we can also add some beneficial bacteria. Yeah, that's a good point actually, guys. Don't add your beneficial bacteria until your fish are in. Otherwise, it doesn't have a food source. It needs waste or poo and pee to be able to keep providing food for the bacteria in the bottle and then to generate and colonize even more. So I have heard people say that they put their beneficial bacteria in like a week before and then they go get fish. That's not a good idea because there's no food source. It'll just die off. If anything, your water will start going murky because that's the bacteria dying. What you tend to do is you'll get like a colonization, then a death, and then and it just keeps like, you need fish in the cycle to do it like this. But you have to make sure, if you're going to do a fish in cycle, which is technically what this is called, that you're testing the water every day. Don't leave it to chance. I mean, there's a lot of plants in there versus not that many fish. So I'm confident enough now to know that there'll be no issues with this at all. But that's only because I've done it so many times. If you're new to this, you need to get a test kit as well. Beautiful home. This is all going to grow in so well. It's all going to carpet in this foreground, so it'll be completely green. You won't actually even see the substrate, but you will see some details of some stones and things. The background stems are all going to grow up. The Java ferns are going to get thicker and more dense so that they're all sort of pointed upright and growing in like a rosette style. That looks so good when it does that. And I can't wait for that moment to come. It's going to be a few months, but I'm really looking forward to it.